message has been authorized by Alberta Accountability Alliance. abpolica@gmail.com.
And red tape reduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to introduce Bill 34, the Access to Information Act. The proposed act is one of two pieces of legislation created to replace the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, or FOIP. The modernization of the FOIP Act will allow Alberta to fall in line with policy from every other province in the country, as well as the federal government. The need for cabinet confidentiality is recognized unilaterally by governments across the country, as well as the Supreme Court, as essential to good governance. I therefore move first reading of the Access to Information Act.
The Honourable Minister of Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction has moved. First reading of Bill 34, Access to Information Act. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. In my opinion, the ayes have it. That motion is carried and so ordered.
Bill 34, Access to Information Act, is now read a first time.
How's it going? It's Darrin Thompson, Alberta Accountability Alliance, WTAF. If you saw some of this stuff from MLA Janice Irwin posting, you saw the thumbnail that we had here, and we're just going to take off our virtual background. Make this be able to watch it. You see the magic is gone. It's like the wizard. Anyway, point being, we wanted to jump on here live. We wanted to give our reaction. If you are not aware, we had 3 bills go through the ledge today. Bills 26, 27, and 29. And those are some very, very important bills that are now heading to the next step in our parliamentary system, which means that they're going to the Lieutenant Governor, Her Honor Lacaney, to receive royal assent. Yeah, I'm at a loss right now. I'm sure you're all at a loss. Like said, if you go follow us on Blue Sky, we've got the link to tonight's studio. So if you want to join us live, feel free to join in the chat as well. We can answer questions on YouTube or on Twitch. So if you got those questions, you got comments, concerns, we've got a lot of concerns. People are frightened, and rightfully so. These bills that got put through today basically destroyed the rights of the trans community, especially the rights of children there. And yes, Jessica, is there anything we can do now? You know what? This is where we came in from the Alliance, myself and some of the early members, and did the push for the petition. I understand that the change.org petitions aren't legally binding. We've got a lot of pushback from members of the Alberta Resistance third-party advertiser group here in the province. A lot of trying to bury the message, and a lot of people calling it out, including candidates and former MLAs from the NDP party, saying that this isn't the way to do it. We have to follow our democratic process. Well, we can show you the democratic process, and you're not going to like it, because that process is frightening. It's absolutely frightening. So what did we find? So we've been watching the ledge for, so you don't have to, because I'm sure we're not the only ones that cannot stand the voice of the Speaker of the House. Nasally voice and arrogance, and just want to throw things. But point being, what we believe we can do now, we believe the only way to stop this government from doing full bore is to do something that historically was done in the 1930s. And that was under Bible Bill William Aberhart's Social Credit Party tried to put through a number of bills. And the bills were considered unconstitutional. The lieutenant governor at the time decided it was in their interest to utilize the lieutenant governor's position, which isn't normally used. Let's be real. This is where people are going, well, this isn't their role. And I understand that their role is a constitutional role. But if you go in October of 1937, then Lieutenant Governor Bowen announced that he was reserving royal assent on the 3 bills until they could be sent to the Supreme Court for review. And one of those 3 bills ended up becoming the bill for the media. Basically, it was the implied Bill of Rights. So that's the other thing that we run into, is the fact that our constitutional rights, or the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, we've all been taught in school. Okay, let's be real here. I'm going to be 50 next year, so I'm aging myself. I'm totally Gen Xer. Anyone younger might have not got the same education, but any of the other Gen Xers or older would have got the education of, we have our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They've all been updated in the 80s. Oh, everything's fine. No one's going to be able to take away our charter rights. Well, we're learning that the charter rights are only applied if certain parties decide that they should be applied. And that's the case of the Freedom Convoy. For whatever reason, and we're not going to leave Pat King out of this, because that individual, we'll try and be polite here, got exactly what they deserved for the crap that they were trying to pull. Anyway, point being, that time of Lieutenant Governor Bowen informed the representatives that he was withholding royal assent. What was the power play for the government at the time? They cut off all the utilities to the governor house. So if Lieutenant Governor Lecany lived in Governor House, this would be an issue. But at this point, no lieutenant governor resides there. So when we're looking at the request to Lieutenant Governor Lecany to reserve royal assent, that is the only step that we have left in our parliamentary system. As you can see, without having the votes in the legislature or in parliament, they can ram bills through, which was proven through former Premier Jason Kenney, who did a number of these little deeds pushing through royal assent. Royal assent at that time was through Lieutenant Governor Mitchell, who, when Lecany was chosen, I had some faith, because Lieutenant Governor Mitchell was appointed by then Prime Minister Stephen Harper. And we all know Steve is got Aish, or sorry, not Aish. Wish he had Aish. Not wish he took the Aish away, but that he has AIMCO. So our pensions are in the hands of the most robotic prime minister of our day, the most dictator-like prime minister of our day. If anyone remembers the media muzzle that Prime Minister Harper put on his MPs at the time, where no one could talk to the media, especially about science or any of the things that weren't religious or what we're facing now. So when we're looking at that, we've done this. We've sat back. We've watched the democratic process. We've watched our parliamentary process go through, our legislative process go through. What are we left with? We're left with the fact that we have to stop the bill as Albertans by requesting Lieutenant Governor Lacaney to do it and reserve royal assent. I understand it's not what we normally do. I understand that this is going to cause a whole lot of reaction from the Black Hat Gang and their ilk, which is really controlling our government. Premier Smith might not realize it, but they're just another puppet being played. But they're willing to sell their soul to the devil themselves. And everyone thinks it's Stephen Harper. A little bit of newsflash for you. When we go back to the William Aberhart aspect, is the fact that the guy who was the next premier after Aberhart died was a guy named Ernest Manning. You would know Ernest Manning more as Preston Manning's dad. So Preston learned from the pulpit of his preacher dad of how we should bring in religion and ensure that we have evangelical Christianity in our politics. And if you go to our page on Gen X history, they have, we've covered these things. We went through Christian collusion, conservative collusion. There's direct connection from Stephen Harper to Preston Manning. Preston Manning's right-hand person under the Manning Foundation is now a co-prime minister of New Zealand. So, and then Harper, of course, if anyone's not aware, is the chairman of the IDU. And the IDU was formed in 1984 by then Vice President George H. Bush and then Prime Minister of England, Margaret Thatcher, and the Chancellor of Germany. So we're not just dealing with a couple of bad apples in Alberta. We're not just dealing with a Marlena Danielle Smith. We're not just dealing with the UCP. We're dealing with an entire right-wing evangelical monster that was created. They played the long game. And how they played the long game, and like you said, Jessica, absolutely the gerrymandering. If we allow this crap to continue, they're going to do that. They're going to, this is why they're pushing through to get rid of any sort of federal influence or federal oversight of this. So when they did the provincial agreements, when it was Canada being Eastern Canada and Western Canada and the central, whatever the actual map was of the colonizers that stole the land from the indigenous people. We fully believe that the biggest thing right now is we don't have an indigenous representation, true indigenous representation that isn't a political party. But I'm not indigenous, white, you could tell. I have that privilege. So we're not going to get into those semantics right now. But what we are going to get into is the fact that we wanted to show you the video of this is our parliamentary system, our legislative system at work. And you tell me if this works for everybody here. So this was the second reading. The third reading has actually happened this week, but this was last week's second reading of Bill 27. The third reading happened tonight.
Honourable Ms. Smith, Honorable Mr. Guthrie, Honorable Mr. Nicolaides, Honorable Ms. Schultz, Honorable Mr. Williams, Honorable Mr. Glubish, Honorable Minister LaGrange, Honorable Mr. Horner, Honorable Mr. Scow, the Honorable Mr. Ellis, Honorable Mr. Amory, Honorable Mr. Newdorf, Honorable Mr. Lowen, Honorable Mr. Wilson, Honorable Mr. Jean, Honorable Mr. Dreeshen, Honorable Mr. Nixon, Mr. Long, Mr. Rosewell, Honorable Mr. Turton, Honorable Mr. Yassine, Honorable Mr. McIver, Honorable Ms. Furr, Honorable Mr. Jones, Honorable Mrs. Sawney, Mr. Getson, Honorable Mr. Sigurdsson, Honorable Mr. Nally, Honorable Mr. Hunter, Mr. Yao, Mr. Wright, Mr. Van Dyken, Ms. Pitt, Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Sear, Mr. Lunty, Mr. Weeb, Mr. Boychenko, Mr. McDougall, Mrs. Petrovic, Mr. Stefan, Mr. Dick, Honorable Ms. Armstrong-Hominack, Mr. Young, Mr. Sinclair, Mr. Bouchard, Mr. Singh, Ms. Lovely.
The following message.
So that's the votes, right? That's the 47 that they require. That's the aspect of what they're doing here. And yeah, absolutely, Jessica, the gerrymander, they're going to keep the seats. There are more progressives than they're not, and I totally agree with you. The unfortunate part is right now there's a battle of the progressives. If there's anyone who's truly progressive, it's got there's an aside to their progressiveness. And this is the frustrating piece. This is where we're frustrated with groups like the Alberta Alliance, where their core members and their leadership is conservative. Their leader was on the board of the Wild Rose Party. So I don't understand how we're going to get out of this mess by voting in a different kind of conservative. You can watch the breakdown episode where Nate interviewed both Marg and Dave Gray on that and see. I'm not trying to stir up the shit, honestly. I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can all come together. We've offered an olive branch. We've offered many things. The resistance doesn't want to work with us. They've got plans. I don't know what their plans are. I know what we're trying to do, and we're struggling is the hardest thing that is happening right now. And all we're watching is the bills go through and people saying we got to vote in the NDP in 2027. Okay, sure, we can vote the NDP in 2027, but what are they going to be taking over? And can they really get in 2027? Because as what we've seen in the South, Project 2025 is going to be implemented in the U.S. And we all know that Premier Marlena Smith is all about Project 2025. All about being Donald Trump's lackey or whatever they want to do. So when we get to that aspect, what the heck do we do as a province? What do we do as a country? It's scary. It's scary as hell. And when I say it's personal, it absolutely is personal. I have two children, one who's an adult, one who's just in middle school, or in junior high, I should say. Sorry, trying to get used to this sort of thing. Is in junior high. Both are members of the youngest one likes to call it the Alphabet Mafia. I usually say 2S community, but they're not two-spirited, so excuse me. They like me to present it as the Alphabet Mafia. My wife and I have 100% not only been allies to the Alphabet Mafia, but we've been accomplices. And as you can see, I'm putting my neck on the line. We posted it out. Things are getting throttled on different social media sites. We did get fined $500. Elections Alberta is targeting us directly. We were targeted before we became political and electoral third-party advertisers, under investigation by then Premier Jason Kenney. And that's when we learned Elections Alberta, as they claim that they're independent of the government, we can guarantee they're not. Straight up. That they are put in place by the government. That's why Jason Kenney fired the previous elections commissioner. That's why you have Glenn Ressler as the person in charge, and they're going to hire someone else to go underneath him so they can still play within the Elections Act. But when it was during the pandemic and they didn't have a secondary thing, when you looked at chain of command, Ressler was reporting directly to the Justice Minister, which is reporting to the UCP. So explain to me how this is a democratic process. Because I've been calling it since 2019, since Bill Haight. I'm not just, contrary to other people's belief, I didn't just come out of nowhere. I've done it personally. I've done it professionally. I've basically thrown everything I have at this because it's personal for me. It's absolutely personal for me. I fight for the rights of those that are voiceless or that need the voice. I'll be the loudest voice in the room if need be. Here's one of my saving graces, our dog Curry. We rescued him. It'll be 3 years. We're heading into our 3rd year this December. And he's a beautiful boy, and he's the only thing keeping me calm these days. I don't want to be the yelling person. I don't want to, I honestly don't. I want to be able to work with everyone. I want to be able to, but we need to figure something out that works for everyone. Because my experience of working with the so-called progressives in this province, as soon as they get what they want, which is usually clout or branding or some sort of connection, they're out. I'm not out. I put everything on the line here. Financially, we're in ruins. The organization is like, if we don't pay the $500 fine, I'll be seeing Crown. I'll be charged by the Crown. They've already said that. So I've been threatened by jail time when I was accused of being a unregistered political third-party advertiser. Now they're threatening me with jail time if I don't pay the fine, or if we don't pay the fine. And they say directly, because I'm the chief financial officer for the Alliance, and I'm the co-founder of the Alliance, I am the one who's risking everything with the Alliance. So when you think that, yeah, it's one guy running it, yeah, it's one guy running it because no one else wants to join. No one, we've offered the Alliance as a platform, as a partner, as whatever, when we were a part of the building of Enough is Enough UCP, we provided the Alliance coverage as that third-party advertiser. That's why the merchandise could be sold. That's why there could be fundraising that went to the Alliance that had to pay off a bunch of costs, because at the time, the regulations did not allow us to work in no collusion. Basically, you're not allowed to collude. Don't tell me how the other people can or aren't colluding, because we know Take Back Alberta and the Alberta, whatever the hell they want to call themselves. There's a whole group of them, and they all connect to the red or the Black Hat Gang. It's just an incestuous mess is what it is. But the power in this province is coming from Ponoka. If you go on and people go on to the Facebook page and they laugh because it's just crazy stuff. That crazy stuff is going to our legislature. And if we don't stop things from going through, they're going to take away all the rights. Whatever isn't a cisgender, white, evangelical Christian belief, believe you and me, it's gone. So that's why I'm here tonight to share these things. I'm going to share the other video. This one is a 8-minute video. And the saddest part about the 8 minutes, this is our total government. This is democracy at work. This, under 8 minutes, is our legislature at work. This is our government. This is how the bills become law. 8 minutes. It took 8 minutes after hour upon hour of discussion and pleading from the NDP. This was the result.
The Honourable Ms. Gray, Member Haji, Ms. Al-Junaid, Member Arcand Paul, the Honourable Mr. Sabir, the Honourable Member Hoffman, Ms. Member Callahoo Stonehouse, the Honourable Mr. Egan, Ms. Pancholi, Mr. Ellingson, Member El-Maliki, Mr. Shepherd, Ms. Sweet, Ms. Wright, Member Brar, Member Eremenko, Ms. Chapman, Member Kayande, Member Hoyle, Mr. Kozowski, the Honourable Ms. Ganley, Member Batten, Member Irwin, Ms. Renault, Member Beauperai, Ms. Hayter, the Honourable Mr. Schmidt, the Honourable Member Ceci, the Honourable Ms. Notley, the Honourable Ms. Sigurdsson, Mr. Diol, Member Loyola, Mr. Dack, Ms. Goring, Dr. Metz.
All those opposed to Amendment HA1, please rise.
The Honourable Ms. Smith, the Honourable Mr. Guthrie, the Honourable Mr. Nicolaides, the Honourable Ms. Schultz, the Honourable Mr. Williams, the Honourable Mr. Glubish, the Honourable Minister Lagrange, the Honourable Mr. Horner, the Honourable Mr. Scow, the Honourable Mr. Ellis, the Honourable Mr. Amory, the Honourable Mr. Newdorf, the Honourable Mr. Lowen, the Honourable Mr. Wilson, the Honourable Mr. Jean, the Honourable Mr. Dreesen, the Honourable Mr. Nixon, Mr. Long, Mr. Rosewell, the Honourable Mr. Turton, the Honourable Mr. Yassini, the Honourable Mr. McIver, the Honourable Ms. Furr, the Honourable Mrs. Sawney, Mr. Getson, the Honourable Mr. Sigurdsson, the Honourable Mr. Nally, the Honourable Mr. Hunter, Mr. Yao, Mr. Wright, Mr. Van Dyken, Ms. Pitt, Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Sear, Mr. Lunty, Mr. Weed, Mr. Boychenko, Mr. McDougall, Mrs. Petrovic, Mr. Stephan, Mr. Dick, the Honourable Ms. Armstrong-Homenuk, Ms. de Jong, Mr. Sinclair, Mr. Bouchard, Mr. Singh, Ms. Lovely.
Mr. Speaker, total for the amendment, 35, total against, 47.
Honourable members, that amendment is defeated. It being a hoist motion, I am required to present or to put before the Assembly all necessary questions to dispose of third reading of Bill 26, the Health Statutes Amendment Act 2024, number 2. On third reading, as proposed by the Honourable Minister of Health. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. No. In my opinion, the ayes have it. That motion is carried and so ordered, and a division has been called. Call in the members. members, a division has been called on third reading of the Health Statutes Amendment Act 2024, number 2. All those are in favor of the motion for third reading, please rise.
The Honourable Ms. Smith, the Honourable Mr. Guthrie, the Honourable Mr. Nicolaides, the Honourable Ms. Schultz, the Honourable Mr. Williams, the Honourable Mr. Glubish, the Honourable Minister Lagrange, the Honourable Mr. Horner, the Honourable Mr. Scow, the Honourable Mr. Ellis, the Honourable Mr. Amory, the Honourable Mr. Newdorf, the Honourable Mr. Lowen, the Honourable Mr. Wilson, the Honourable Mr. Jean, the Honourable Mr. Dreesian, the Honourable Mr. Nixon, Mr. Long, Mr. Rosewell, the Honourable Mr. Turton, the Honourable Mr. Yassine, the Honourable Mr. McIver, the Honourable Ms. Furr, the Honourable Mrs. Sawney, Mr. Getson, the Honourable Mr. Sigurdsson, the Honourable Mr. Nally, the Honourable Mr. Hunter, Mr. Yao, Mr. Wright, Mr. Van Dyken, Ms. Pitt, Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Sear, Mr. Lunty, Mr. Weeb, Mr. Boychenko, Mr. McDougall, Mrs. Petrovic, Mr. Stephan, Mr. Dick, the Honourable Ms. Armstrong-Homenuk, Ms. DeYoung, Mr. Sinclair, Mr. Bouchard, Mr. Singh, Ms. Lovely.
All those opposed to the motion, please rise.
The Honourable Ms. Gray. Member Haji, Ms. Al-Junaid, Member Arkan Paul, the Honourable Mr. Sabier, the Honourable Member Hoffman, Member Calahoo Stonehouse, the Honourable Mr. Egan, Ms. Pancholi, Mr. Ellingson, Member El-Maliki, Mr. Shepherd, Ms. Sweet, Ms. Wright, Member Brar, Member Aramenko, Ms. Chapman, Member Kayande, Member Hoyle, Mr. Kozowski, the Honourable Ms. Ganley, Member Batten, Member Irwin, Ms. Renault, Member Beauparai, Ms. Hayter, the Honourable Mr. Schmidt, the Honourable Member Ceci, the Honourable Ms. Notley, the Honourable Ms. Sigurdsson, Mr. Diol, Member Loyola, Mr. Dack, Ms. Goring, Dr. Metz.
Mr. Speaker, total for the motion, 47. Total against, 35.
Motion is carried and so ordered.
Bill 26, Health Statutes Amendment Act 2024, number 2, is now read a third time.
And that, my friends, is the democracy of Alberta. Unbelievable. 7 minutes, 58 seconds, including a 2-minute delay while they called in the members. So 6 minutes, 58 seconds. And the UCP government destroyed our healthcare system. In 6 minutes and 58 seconds, these individuals have made the public healthcare system into a corporation. Apologize for raising my voice. If you look on the stream, there is the link to the change.org asking Lieutenant Governor Lacani to withhold their royal assent for Bill 34, because we want them to withhold them for Bill 34, for Bill 26, Bill 27, Bill 29. But you have to be strategic. We have to have some sort of focus. So why do we go with 34? 34 is the FOIP Act. That's why we went with it. Because if you look at Bill 34, basically it's a way for them to protect the information and any decisions that they are making, any steps that they make to make these decisions, to be protected from the public, protected from any sort of prying eyes. And you're not going through a privacy commissioner anymore. Nay. You're going to the minister. The current minister of pick the minister. It started with Jason Kenney. It continues with Danielle Smith, and whoever the lunatic fringe is going to put in next if Smith doesn't do their bidding. I don't know what's going to be left of this province if they end up putting a third person through. This is scary. This is when we say fascism's on the way, when we told you the fascism was here. Fascism's always been here. Now it is in our government. Now we've got a person that wants to be the queen. She wants to be an emperor. You see what happened in South Korea today? That might be what we need to do. This government is unconstitutional. This government is undemocratic. This government is going to kill. And I know that gutless weasel, Dan Williams, uses every little trick in the book and every little rule to keep decorum, to make everything, oh, this is not professional. That hurts our feelings. You can't call us out on these things. Even though we're disgusting ghouls that will kill your children, you can't say that to us because that's personal. That's a personal attack. But he's protected because he's inside the system. The system is broken. The game is rigged. We need to think outside the box. We need to come together. We need numbers. We need the numbers. We need to raise money because if we don't make, like I said, we don't make the $500, I don't really want to go to court. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to do any of these things trying to protect my kids, trying to protect your kids, trying to protect you, trying to protect me, trying to protect the province from whatever we're trying to protect it from. And it's like conspiracy theorists. You're tinfoil hat. Oh, you're just negative. You just don't want to see the positivity of the NDP. And that don't matter about the NDP right now. This isn't about politics. It's about personal rights and freedoms. And they're going to kill all your rights and freedoms. You see it in the States. It started with Roe v. Wade. Now you've got some of these gutless weasels that have been elected under 47 saying we should look at making gay marriage illegal again. It's that whole thing. That's why we came up with the designs that we did. And if you like any of the designs, the funds from that are going to the 500, and then it's going to go to whatever we need to do to keep getting the message out there to fight this awful system. Right now, we're fighting the UCP, but we're fighting all capitalists. Capitalism cannot stay. We cannot live under a capitalist system anymore. We need to find a different way. We need UBI. I know it's not the solution for everyone, but more money into people's pockets will help provide that safety net. We need to provide affordable housing. All these things that we could do, we need to do. We can't just sit around and say, oh, this would be great if we did this, because there won't be a chance to do it. This is why I'm so scared. This is why I'm so angry. This is why ADC, truth, it's Angry Dead Canada. That was my nickname when I was on radio. Because I've always been very passionate. And if you don't like me, that's fine. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Totally understand that. You're not everyone's cup of tea. Totally understand that too. That's why we came up with the design, and you should wear it proudly. I don't like you, you don't like me, but together we can take down the UCP. But together, see, united we stand, divided we fall. If we don't have the numbers, we have no chance at all. Again, like and subscribe. Donate. If you don't want to get any of the merch, you can donate directly to our co-fi.com/abpoli. There. Follow us on Blue Sky, abpoli. Well, it's at abpoli.ca. Sorry, it's at aballiance.ca. abpoli.ca is the merch place. AB Alliance is the website. aballiance.ca is the full website, and you get the information, you can get the links and that sort of thing. We just need to come together. Share this with everyone. This isn't about hiding from anyone. This is, like I said, 100% transparency. That's what we've always had. Myself and the Alliance, we provided the transparency. We want to be that inclusive organization. You feel like you don't have a voice? Join us. Click on the thing, email us, DM me, whatever the case may be. We need you to join. Whatever you can do. We want online presence. We want offline presence. But we're not looking to, let's not reinvent the wheel here. We just need the numbers. We need the people that have the message, the people with the audience to share this message. If we don't, we're done. We are absolutely done. There's no hope for my kids. There's no hope for your kids. There's no hope for any of us who aren't evangelical Christian conservatives, because that's all that's going to survive this nightmare. If we don't come together and tear them down. The first step is signing that petition. Show Lacanny there is a bunch of us. There's a number of Albertans that want change, that don't want undemocratic bills being pushed through rubber stamped with the royal assent, because that's just what we've always done. To hell with what we've always done. It doesn't work for everyone. It only works for the people that are haves. And right now, there are more have-nots than there are haves, and the have-nots need to come together and make the haves accountable for their actions. Hold them accountable for their actions. That's why we're the AB Accountability Alliance. That's why it's accountability. That's what we want. And right now, there is no accountability. And if Bill 34 goes through, there will never be accountability in this government. And it doesn't matter if it's a UCP, it doesn't matter if it's NDP, it doesn't matter if it's the next conservative color that goes into the ledge. The bill becomes law with royal assent. And if that bill becomes law, that means they're protected from VoIP, which means we have no media coverage. Independent, commercial, mainstream, it doesn't matter. You can't get the information if it's protected and guarded by them. You can't get the information. So the stories covering the government are only going to be what the government wants you to see. And if we look at skyboxes and luxury suites and trips to the Middle East, multiple trips to the United States, a 100% switch from spending millions of dollars transparently to communication people to doing everything under the guise of freedom. There's dangerous people that are directing this thing, and they need to be stopped. And the only way we're going to stop them is if we get the lieutenant governor to do something that was done historically in the 1930s. Is they need to reserve royal assent on Bill 34. And if we can get through to that, maybe they can reserve royal assent on all the other bills that before they become law. Because that's our only hope. We've tried the democratic process. We've tried the legislative process. You saw 6 minutes, 58 seconds. Our healthcare system's been dismantled by Adrienne Lagrange, Danielle Smith, and the rest of the UCP. Like, subscribe, do everything you can. Again, come together, please. Begging you. I am begging you. This is about prayer. It's about an olive branch. It's about, if you don't like me, that is fine. I don't need to lead. I just need to be part of the group that leads. I don't want to be the face of the organization as much as you don't want to hear me talk. Clearly, I'm not the person that people want to hear from. So if you are that person that people want to hear from, come. come to the Alliance. Let's collaborate. Let's get you involved. Let's get you leading. Because the only way out is together. We'll see y'all next time.
The following message has been authorized by Alberta Accountability Alliance. abpolyca@gmail.com.